Welcome to ASCC's Concrete Talk. We want to thank ASCC for sponsoring the show. Go to ascconline.org and check out all the great benefits they have to offer. Follow us on all social media and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Today, we are introducing ourselves and talking about collaborating. Hi there. Welcome to an first episode ever of ASCC's Concrete Talk. I'm Rick Lobdell, and I'm here with
Matt Popoff.
And we have decided to join together and start doing a podcast based on all the things we know about ASCC and how great this organization is. So I'm going to start with Matt. How long have you been a member?
We have been members of the ASCC since probably 1996, I want to say. 96 or 1995. And that was back when it was just my dad.
Okay, so when did the organization start, do you know?
Oh man, of course you can ask
I don't
me
know.
that question.
It just when you said that, it made me think to ask that question. I didn't mean to put you on the spot because I don't know either.
Yeah, late 80s or maybe even the early 80s.
Because that's funny because if you joined in 96, you said?
Yeah.
I was just graduating college.
Right.
I was not thinking about concrete.
I was 96. I was 12 years old. So
thanks for making me feel old. Appreciate that.
No, sorry. I didn't mean to do it that way, but yeah.
It's funny I say that because when they were asking me about putting this together and I was trying to figure out like who to do this with, they were like, yeah, you need to find someone older. I'm like, older? Why do we want someone older to do this? And then the next day I called them back and I said, hey, I'm the older one. We need the younger crowd, not the older person. I'm the older person.
I like that. That's good. I agree.
So the goal of what I want to get started with talking about this stuff is I want to try to get to know each other a little bit better. So you can ask questions back and forth, whichever way you want to go to. I saw that your company started in 77?
Correct. Yeah. 1977. Actually 2 days ago, April 7th, 1977. So as of 2 days ago, we are 47 years old.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Almost my age.
All right. Almost. Yeah.
That's awesome.
When did you join as an ASCC member?
2012. And I actually, let me take that back. 2011, 12. I might have not actually joined until 2013. I came on as a non-member for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
What happened for me was I was at World of Concrete, the infamous World of Concrete, and I was doing the artistry in concrete. I don't know if you ever watched one of those back in the day. I don't know how long you've been going to World of Concrete, to the same point actually. And right next to me was the DCC booth, literally right next to where I was doing my demonstration.
Right.
And so those guys just kept staring at me and talking to me and getting to know me. And they're
staring
like, we've never
down,
seen
judging you?
No, like they've said, they're like, we've never seen anybody do what you're doing.
Right.
And it was mesmerizing to them. And so they just kept talking to me. And then the one guy, his name's Wes Vollmer. I don't know if you ever met Wes back in the day.
Mm-mm.
Unbelievable guy. And he was like, I need to show you something. So he took me to the DCC awards. And I was like, what's this? And he said, these are the awards that are going on in the industry. Before all this happened, I didn't even know there was an industry. Like this was the beginning for me to even come to an event like this, even understand that there's a concrete world out there. Because I didn't even know it existed. I was a contractor for 7 years before I even found out there was an industry.
Sure.
And so I go to this event and I'm watching and I'm like, these guys are nothing compared to me. And he goes, that's why I wanted you to see it.
Right.
And so the next year I entered and I won a couple. And I went, he talked me into going to Chicago that year for ASCC. And I went as a non-member and had a blast, and it just kind of went from there one step at a time. And it took me 2 years to decide to become a member just because I wasn't quite sure if it was really what I was looking for, being that, the funny joke is I've never poured concrete. So why would I be a part of a concrete organization if I don't even know how to pour concrete? What's the point? I'm just an artist.
But you do everything with concrete.
But I do it on top of concrete, yes.
Right, yeah.
On the surface of concrete, yes.
The concrete base is required for you to do your job.
Well, one of the things, one of the reasons why I love being a part of ASC so much too is to be able to talk to guys like you, to
Hmm.
remind you that you're pouring my canvas. I can't
Right.
do it without you. I'm
Right.
not going to go pour it and then make the art. I have to have you do what you're doing so I can come in later and show off,
Sure. Sure.
you know?
Absolutely.
And if you don't do your job right, I can't do my job right.
Yeah. That is of utmost importance in our industry. And I've learned that, not only through the ASCC, but like through ACI. I've been asked to join committees that I don't have anything to ever do with. And, um, like I'm on the committee, I'm a voting member on 310J, which is concrete polishing. I've never polished concrete in my life. I
Right.
never have. Never. I mean,
I
sure,
have.
I've ground enough concrete, usually because it's screwed up or for some other reason, like we had to go grind concrete, but it was never to make it like, look good like polished concrete. And but that was why I was asked to be on the committee. Is like I lay the canvas for these guys to be able to create a great polished product, And I think, and this is a whole different subject, but I think like, or the misconception of polished concrete out there is so dramatic that the more input that we get on it, no matter what, it's the better it is.
No, 100%. I think that's a really another great point to the organization because when the polishing joined, before polishing joined ASCC,
Hmm.
we were in a world of if only I could talk to the polishers about what they're doing to explain to them how I have to pour the concrete, because there was no
Sure.
communication going on between the two sides back then. And then once that joined the organization, it was an amazing moment to go watch those committees talk to each other and see the world come together and
Right.
start that initial conversation where we were on the same page almost or starting to become that for the first time ever. That was amazing.
Oh, I
It's one of my
agree.
favorite moments in being a part of the organization, actually.
I agree 100%. And it's helped me out tremendously just as far as being a concrete contractor to help, I need to understand what you need as far as a canvas goes, and so it's been able to help me understand how you do your job. I can do my job better. And getting it from a polisher's perspective, it feels like, we're almost treated as two different divisions in most specifications, which is fine, but we obviously need to get along.
Absolutely. And communicate. It's not just, you got to know what each other needs. It's interesting how that works because when something doesn't go well, who gets blamed? It's all of a
Exactly.
sudden, well, it's the concrete guy or it's the polishing guy and that's what we
Right.
were talking about back then, that it's always blamed on one side when the other side doesn't really know what their expectation should be. And
Right.
it's an amazing thing that we have the ability to have that communication and in all reality too, the idea for this being our first episode, the first idea is we want to introduce each other, we want to get to know each other a little bit. But part two is the idea of one of the things that ASCC really brings to the table is collaboration. And that's
Hmm.
exactly what we're talking about right now. If these sides of the organization of the industry don't collaborate and don't communicate with each other, nothing happens the way it needs to happen, and then we're never going to get better.
100%.
And
100%.
and one of the things that I was thinking about when I was looking up some of the stuff on your company was the amount of square foot you guys pour. Like it's overwhelming to me. Like I think about some of the commercial projects I've done over the years and thinking about the companies that are coming in and pouring ahead of me, and it never really occurred to me for years what it takes to create massive square footage at one time. I mean, massive square footage. You know,
Hmm.
and 90% of my work is residential. It's the
Right.
other 10% that blows my mind. The residential is easy, it's not a big deal at all. And it doesn't matter how good of a concrete job you do, I can still fix it.
Right.
But this commercial world, how are you pouring so much square feet at one time?
Yeah, it's just collaboration. Honestly,
I mean, yeah,
yeah. Uh, it's I mean, of course, a lot of it is hanging your neck out there. We have a tremendous amount of faith in our employees and in their capabilities. We have a very loyal employee base and following, and those guys take whatever we throw at them and always make it happen. So it always comes down to our people, of course, and we've got a solid crew to be able to do it. But with innovations in technology, laser screeds, and these type of things that big pieces of equipment that allow us to do these type of projects and make them easier day after day with new technology and inventions of battery powered equipment or whatever it might be to be able to help us to get these jobs done has been able to help us make a more safe and efficient environment for our employees across the board. And but yeah, it's a lot of planning goes into every single concrete pour, whether it's the neighbor's driveway, which I mean, we still do driveways. It's we're not the cheapest when it comes to doing a driveway, but we'll definitely do your driveway for you. You might
That's
have
all
to
right. I'm
wait
not
a
the
little.
cheapest when it comes to commercial either. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so we don't market ourselves as the cheapest. We know we're not the cheapest. We provide a premium product, and it's if you want it done right, and we get one chance. That's what keeps us in our industry constantly thriving on each other. And whether it's the decorative concrete contractor like yourself, or the concrete ready mix supplier, we rely consistently on each other, and uh, our industry talks and communicates and collaborates. I feel more like any other industry just because we totally admit and we know we will never have this figured out. And as soon as we think we have something figured out and we have a perfect plan for it, that so you'll get thrown a curveball, and then it starts raining, and then something else happens. There's always, or the truck's been delayed, or there's always these curveballs, and it's just how we learn to constantly recover from these curveballs on a constant day by day, hour by hour basis, and how we recover from it was be able to uh, do it. But it's this, you got to get this constant feedback from the rest of the people in the industry, because, like I said, I we won't ever have it figured out.
well, so it's funny you say that because when I think about throwing curveballs, okay, in my world, when I'm throwing a curveball, it's like, well, we're going to stop for the day and figure this out, and we'll be back tomorrow. You don't get
Right.
to stop. You're like, I need that concrete truck now because I'm going to have a really bad cold joint. If you don't get that crap here now, and
Hmm.
you're stuck in traffic and there's nothing we can do about it, that's a different curveball. That's a live, in the moment curveball. That is not a, let's pause for a moment and take a break. You don't get to do that. You're like, no, 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 we got to go the other way. We got to go, 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 go. We can't. So, how can you take curveballs in the middle of that moment when it's like this is live action happening right now?
Right. Yeah. You got to take the path of least resistance. I mean, if it's put it in if we have the ability to stop the pour and put in what we would call a header or a form board, that might be the case. Or you got to make sacrifices of let's try and save what we've done already, and then we've got to trash this portion of it. But obviously, the implications are very severe. But having backup plans on backup plans, that's probably what we're most thorough at. There's tons of times we'll go to a job and bring a ton of unnecessary equipment just because if one I was always taught by the great Steve Lloyd, uh,
Good
and
old
Steve,
Steve.
yeah, good old Steve. It's Steve Lloyd. He always told me, and I've heard him say it a million times, but two is one and one is none. And it's if you got two power trowels, that means you got one, because one's gonna break. And one, if you only got one, you're screwed, because that one's gonna break too.
Right, right.
so so we bring lots of backup plans to be able to make sure that we can make it work. But it's a constant adjusting basis, that's for sure.
Speaking of the great Steve Lloyd, I love talking to that guy. He's an amazing person, and he's back to when we were talking about with the polishing. He was that forefront person of like, if I could only talk to a polisher right now, there's so many things I want to say to them. And he was the number one person I was waiting to see talk to them when we did get all that together. And he was a part of that mega pour.
Yes.
That happened, wasn't that in Texas?
Yeah, in Texas at the Ford factory.
Yeah. And again, collaboration. I mean, how much work did that take to collaborate all those different companies together to come together to do that? It was like, what, 400,000 square feet at one time or something crazy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. I think it was one of the largest pours, continuous pours ever. Yes, correct.
I remember his son Duck telling me that he spent 18 straight hours at the edge of the trucks watching the pour going down and leading it and telling it where to go and guiding every single truck for 18 straight hours. That's all he did, which is insane. I couldn't even think about doing that, like nonstop.
Yeah, it takes an army of people. I mean, we've never done anything sort of that size. Our largest pour we've ever done was 52,000 square feet. It was 18 inches thick, though. It was 3,000 yards of concrete, and we poured it. It's a 24-hour session, and we got 20 guys coming in right at 7 p.m. and then we got another 20 guys coming in at 7 a.m. And it's a constant revolving door of relying on people. So, and it's
interesting.
This past weekend in Iowa, I want to say, Iowa it was. There's a company called Victory Unlimited, and they do a lot of freezer slabs for a company called Lineage Logistics. And anyways, they did 125,000 square foot concrete slab on Friday night, starting at 2 in the morning, I think. It was 9,500 yards of concrete, and they did it in 12 hours. That's like 800. It came out to like 850 yards an hour, which is just mind boggling. I mean, 85 trucks an hour is crazy, but it's like, they had a couple drone videos of it on YouTube and showed some social media posts of it, but it's like there, you look at the pour and it's like, there's 150 people down there
it's got to be insane.
But the coordination between, they said they were running 8 concrete batch plants to keep your concrete like perfect amongst 8 batch plants. Ozinga did it, and it's just phenomenal. And to not have a single load rejected, just the quality control from their standpoint alone. And then the company Skirto out of Chicago, they've placed and finished it, which is a whole nother thing. Because they have 8 concrete pumps and like four belts to be able to supply all this concrete. It's just mind blowing. But I see those type of pours, and I'm like, ooh, I'd love to be a part of that. That gets it gets real exciting. Like, just
maybe one of these days you need to do that, and I'll be there running around in circles, acting like I'm a part of it, and I won't know what's going on the whole time. And
we'll put you on one of the. We'll put you on one of the hydroplanes or helicopters or whatever the decorative crew calls them. That's what most people do.
So you're going to laugh then. The largest project I've ever done is 35,000 square feet.
That's pretty good, though. In one day?
Of course not. It was over 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's all right.
It was only supposed to be over 2 months. It was a condo development in downtown Nashville. And so it started off great. It was right after the economy tanked. So it was like the perfect time to get a job like that too. And it was supposed to take 2.5 months, and it was going to be really good payoff, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Had it all planned out. And when we started it, it was doing all the different condos in this big building and all the entrances and the lobbies and stuff like that too. So we started off with a bang. We did a whole wing of it. It was like, yeah, this is going to be perfect. And then they gave us like 4 condos at a time, 2 condos at a time. And I was like, no, I'm supposed to do a wing at a time. But I didn't put that in writing. So that they got me. And they strung it out for 6 months. And I broke even. I barely made a dime off of it because of it. I was so mad.
And was that the last time you went after a large project like that?
Yeah.
I can see why. Yeah, that's And that's no different than what we deal with. We don't go after apartment complexes and that kind of stuff. But it's like, yeah, you want to assume that you can get, if I've got to do a job with panels, I want to assume that I can do 10 panels a day. Well, if I don't have access to 3/4 of the building, during this time span that I'm supposed to do these in, like, yeah, now I'm coming back to do the next 10 panels, the next 10 panels. And it's like, we constantly deal with stuff like that all the time. And that kind of, contract verbiage and that kind of stuff is just more and more important as this day and age goes on. Unfortunately, we can't just handshake with everybody and expect that we're all going to get along and make money, right?
Yeah, no, I never even thought about that kind of stuff back then because I was mostly residential where you don't have contracts. Mm-hmm. And to take on a commercial project of that magnitude, and I handled it. It wasn't like I didn't have the manpower or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But it turned out too, like while I was on that project, there was a guy that was doing the outside through the hardscape company. He was doing the outside walkways and he was staining these red bands through the walkway. And I was talking to him and he was going to
explain that. Standing a red band?
Staining a red band, yeah.
Oh, staining. I'm sorry.
Yeah, not standing. Yeah, staining a red band. So it was like 3 feet wide by 12, 15 feet long. Mm-hmm. And there was probably 20 of them through the project, through the two buildings side by side. So you were walking down the front, going through the shopping centers, like all the commercial property that's in the front of the condos, and then all the condos are behind and above it. And I was talking to him and he was going to use a stain that I would never have recommended, that won't last, all this kind of stuff. And he said, well, it was supposed to be acid stained, but I'm worried about the city complaining about the runoff. And I was like, well, the architect spec'd it to be acid stained. Why are you involved with the runoff? Like, I don't understand this. And I was like, so what if you get in trouble? Like, you're not going to get in trouble. The architect spec'd it. And he goes, no, I would get in trouble because I'm the contractor doing it. And I'm like, what? And I never heard of that before. Whether he's right or wrong, I never heard of anything like that before because I don't work in this world.
Sure.
And so I went to the supervisors and I said, whatever that guy's telling you to do, he's wrong. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you right now, it's going to fail. And I highly suggest you change your mind on what he's doing because he changed the contract. And they said, no, we got a 10-year warranty with him. It's all going to be good. He promises it's going to work and all this kind of stuff. And I just looked at him and I was like, just mark my word. I told you. Just remember this moment. I told you it's not going to work. Winter happens. We get a crazy freeze, which we never get in Nashville, barely ever. We have more recently, but it's really rare. Freeze goes away and you can see footprints of it coming up where the freeze was coming up and people were walking over it. It lifted right off because it was just a water-based sealer with red color in it.
Right.
And I was like, and so they called me and they said, hey, you remember that problem you told us was going to happen? It happened. I was like, really? Well, why are you calling me instead of him? You have a 10-year warranty. Yeah, his phone's disconnected. We can't get a hold of him. And I'm like,
that's not a bad standpoint.
Like, so how many times did I tell you so on this one? They're like, yeah, well, can you fix it? And I said, yeah, no problem. So I charged them a ridiculous amount of money to go fix it and laughed my ass off. I can't swear. Laughed my butt off the whole time. And I go in there with a hot water pressure washer and I just remove the stain and I restain it and I reseal it in 3 days. I told them it would take me 10 days to do it. I finished it in 3 days.
There you go.
And then for the next decade, all they could do was refer me over and over and talk about it over and over because the color never went away. When you do an acid stain, it's permanent.
Right.
And I didn't have any runoff. I had no issues. There wasn't that much residue. I don't know what he was worried about. No one complained. I didn't get in trouble. I know what he's trying to say, but there wasn't enough of acid stain. If you'd stained the whole entire sidewalk, I'd understand. But they're just 3 foot by 12 foot bands. Right. So there wasn't enough runoff. There wasn't that much residue. We neutralized it. For the most part, it just sat there. It wasn't enough.
Right.
And yeah, it worked great and it lasted for a very long time. I noticed a couple of years ago that they finally went back and solid colored sealed it again over top of my stain. But at least my stain's underneath it. So if it chips off, you're still going to see color. But I'm still friends with those supervisors to this day. They've gone off and done their own companies, gone off and done more from there. And they've always called me and always referred me because I was there for them. And I told them it was going to happen and I was right. And I showed them the right way to do it compared to the cheap way to do it, if you want to say it, or, cutting corners. Like, I don't cut corners. I've never cut corners. It's one of the biggest things about why I'm still recognized in this industry and what I do. I refuse to cut corners. There is only one way to do things, and it's the right way. Yes, we come through a lot of obstacles. Yes, we run into a lot of issues, and there's all that problem solving like you were talking about. Mm-hmm. But you problem solve it the right way. You don't compromise because you have to problem solve, and that's something I had to learn very quickly in this industry.
And that's to add to that, admitting that you don't know the right way is okay too. Mm-hmm. It's amazing how much work we've gotten from people that, like, we just flat out tell them, like, we've never used this product before. We are more than willing to learn about it, and I will do my due diligence of researching it, and trying to figure out somebody else in the industry that has used it, and try to do as much research as I can. But I'm flat out honest with them. I'm like, we'll give her a shot, because we get it. I call it's chemical warfare. You deal with it more than I do, but everybody's got their own finishing aids for concrete, and they got their own curing compounds. We got, unlimited chemicals to make all your chemicals do chemical things and add mixtures for your concrete. And it's like, I'll try anything once. However, I gotta compare it to something else. But on this last project that we were spec'd out on, or this product was spec'd out on, I'd never used before, and I've heard of it, just seen it on social media, because several people use this product, and it's basically a finishing aid cure for a high industrial traffic floor slab. And I literally go on LinkedIn, and I was like, I've seen somebody post about something like this. So I just type in the product name and like search through my friends. And I was like, oh yeah, that was David down in Texas. Let me give him a call real quick. And hey, how do I use this? This is everything you need to know about it. Perfect. Plenty of success. And it's like, it's very refreshing to, I don't ever have a problem with trying somebody's product. But I typically, especially if it's going to be something worth a worthwhile investment, typically a piece of equipment or something like that, I need to talk to another concrete contractor that's used that product. Like, that's my standpoint at this. It's like, you can tell me this is the world's greatest finishing aid and it will cure all my problems with concrete. I need to talk to somebody else that's used it before me and see what get some feedback on it, so I can learn as much as I can about it before we start to use it too. So, and if you want me to be the first person, I ain't paying for it. You just send it to me for free. I'll tell you what I
think. So this Dave guy you talked to in Texas, is he a member of ASCC?
He is. David
How about that? Yep. Here we go with that point of collaboration again.
That's it, man. He'll always hang his head out there on, he'll try things no matter what it is. And, but I know he's had a little more versed on this industrial, curing finishing aid, and super helpful about it. But all it takes,
you'll get a kick out of this point. When I first started coming to ASCC, I was talking to Mike Murray, mm-hmm. and I was telling him about this project I was having a problem on. And he goes, "What's the mix design?" I'm like, "What's that?"
Huh?
And he goes, "The mix design of the concrete." I'm like, "It's concrete." Because no, there's certain things. I'm like, "What?" And I don't know this. So he tells me all about it. I start researching some of that. And this is one of my huge benefits to being a member of ASCC, is having access to someone like him and being able to call him and ask these questions. Right. So I called him a few times through the process, and I figured all this kind of stuff out. And so I learned so much from going to ASCC over the years with mixed designs and everything like that too, that sometimes I sound like I'm a real concrete guy.
Right.
It cracks me up. And I was actually doing the Nashville Predator Stadium. They were making this new bar underneath it that was really cool for it's extra price. It's like a private section of the place where you can do like standing room only and watch the game. And it's pretty awesome. You can high five the team when they go through. Huge restaurant. Of course you're
working in the bar.
Of course. It was so cool.
Yeah.
And they had to re-pour some sections of the concrete. And so I was so proud of myself to walk into the pre-meeting that you guys get to do all the time. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
so what's the mix design? And the guy's like, what? I was like, well, what's the mix design for this concrete? Because I'm affected by what you're going to do, and you want it to be done quickly. So I need to know how long it's going to cure. I need to know what you're doing with it to make it cure fast. And he's just looking at me like, but you've never poured concrete before. And I said, I know.
Yeah. That's why I need to know.
I'm so proud of myself. I called Mike Murray right away. I was like, you wouldn't believe all that stuff you told me really did work.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe that. It's, yeah, just small tips of advice like that you can get tidbits of information from and be super helpful for the future. And it's nice to know, like, it's nice to not sound like an idiot. I mean, me as for when I first started working for my dad 16 years ago. I did during high school. I was mostly just concrete finisher though. But like when I first started kind of working my way into management, I guess I should say, and going and bidding jobs or whatever it was, it's like I'd show up to these meetings and I'm 24 years old and everybody's looking at me like, what does this kid even know about anything? And it's like, you know, um, I learned the hard way that I went into a meeting where the concrete polisher just ran over me like a truck, and I had no leg to stand on because I have no idea how to do his job. He just told me all the things that we screwed up, and then we ended up having to do a lot of extra work. But it's like I knew as soon as I got out of that meeting, it's like I need to talk to some concrete polishers and figure out exactly how they do their job. It's like and now I can, it's a little bit later, but it's like shortly after that I could go to those meetings and at least hold my own to be like, no, you didn't do your job right. I mean, not exactly saying that, but have the confidence to be able to be like, you didn't start with the right grit of diamonds, or you obviously you didn't cut deep enough over here, whatever it might be. Um, but yeah, guys like Steve Lloyd, which he also polishes concrete, so it's super helpful as he finishes as well too. But him and Chad Gill, Ryan Lakebrink, a lot of those guys have been so super helpful for me as a concrete contractor to help understand how you guys need to do your job and have inspire the confidence in me to be able to actually talk to these guys. But it helps. I feel, if they understand that how they do their job, then it becomes a collaboration instead of an argument. Which,
Yeah.
Like I've been in plenty of construction arguments where people are just pointing fingers, and it's like I feel like it's happening less now, maybe, but maybe that's just my perspective. But we're all here to find a solution to the problem, and just because you're a different type of worker than I do, I still need the plumber to be able to help me protect his pipes. You know what I mean? It's we all still need each other to be able to get to, from point A to point B.
No, and on top of that too, I'll annoy you with one point that I bring up to everybody at ASCC, and I'm ruthless about this with all the concrete guys. Because I remind them that you don't know I'm coming in after you. Mm-hmm. And I say every single time, please don't use curing seals. Please. Stop using curing seals. Stop using curing compounds. I know you need them. I know they're required. I know they're spec'd in.
Right.
But I can't do my job right if I don't know they're there.
Right.
Because I don't hear about that. Like when I get involved with a commercial project, that's not in my specifications.
No.
It's not even talked about. It's not even brought up. I'm not in that pre-conversation like you are, because the building's already built.
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming in after it's built. Right. I'm coming in 6 months after you.
You mean it doesn't dissipate in 30 days like they say it does?
No, it does not.
Right?
But I can't tell you how many times I had to find out the hard way what that meant and learn. I was like, what is going on with this slab? Why is my stain not doing what it's supposed to? What is going, it took me a long time to figure that stuff out, because again, we rarely have that problem on residential. Mm-hmm. And I did have that problem once on my parents' house up in Ohio. They were getting a new driveway poured and they didn't tell me. And I couldn't believe they didn't tell me. They were like, what do you mean we didn't tell you? And they were in the middle of getting it poured. And They told me what the concrete guy was going to do and all this stuff. And I took his phone number and I called him. And I said, whatever you do, don't put a curing compound on this. And he goes, I don't know who you are, but I put a curing compound on all my projects. And I'm like, you can't, because you don't understand. I'm coming in afterward. He goes, no, it'll dissipate in 30 days. No, it won't. Don't do it. There's no reason for you to do it. I'm authorizing you not to put a curing compound on my parents' driveway. He did it. Couldn't get it off. My parents' driveway was white. I ruined it trying to rip it off with pressure washer, and I was like, I could have killed him. I just was so mad that there are people out there that are so not into the idea of a team and the idea of collaboration, that aren't willing to discuss things and aren't willing to take a different point of view and listen to what you have to say. And I could have made the most amazing driveway in my hometown. Everybody would have driven by, would have been a huge thing. And I couldn't do anything because of it.
Yeah. And it's, we have our standards, right? It's like, sure, everything gets curing compound, but we also can deviate from those standards if we understand the end product, right? And, if we're going to go out and do sidewalks all day, of course they're going to get a curing compound on it. But it's, for like that guy, here's some guy on the phone that's telling him not to cure something. He's like, you don't know anything about concrete. Why should I listen to you? I cure everything because I'm tired of people calling me back for problems. This is just a standard, right? But, we run into it like even with specifications. It's like they're so stuck on using curing compound when it's like absolutely not necessary. Like the whole point of a curing compound is to basically cool the surface down and get it to catch up with the bottom of the concrete and it cure evenly, right? Well, when it's raining and it's 40 degrees outside, we still don't need to spray a curing compound. That's kind of pointless, and it's like, or if it's freezing, it's like you're really not doing anything because it's not even drying anyways. And
right.
But we get stuck on projects a lot of the times like that. Like, you have to spray the curing compound. It says in the specs you have to spray the curing compound. It's like, no, that's not the end intention. But it's like for what you're talking about. If you told me what you were doing with the surface of it, okay, if you're going to tear the surface off, you're going to grind it or whatever, then I don't really care about putting a curing compound on it. You're going to destroy the surface anyways, right?
I would have ascertained what was already there.
Sure.
I want the surface.
Right, exactly. You want the porous surface.
Yes. I want that perfect light broom finish, nice surface, everything like that. And on top of that too, 3 doors down from me, my best friend growing up, his dad saw that concrete being poured, hired the same guy. The guy did the exact same thing. So then I came back the next summer and I saw that there was all these tire marks down his driveway. Well, he had hired someone to seal the driveway with a solvent-based sealer. Not knowing anything, not knowing this was done, I did an experiment on my parents' house before I ever moved forward on what I could do to see what would happen. And I did it with a solvent-based sealer on top of a white or a water-based curing compound will never, ever, ever dry. It has nothing to absorb into. It just sits there.
Right.
And so then it takes dirt to dry it up. So it took the tires driving on it, the pollen dropping on it. It took 6 months for that surface to dry. Sure. And all his tire marks ripping it all apart and making it look, and there's no way to fix it because those marks are permanent now from that point on. Just because that guy used a curing compound, not knowing any better about what could happen after that, not knowing someone like me could come in afterward, and just obsessed with, I have to cure this concrete no matter what. This is how I do it. So he ruined 2 driveways in a block.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if we could just go back to water curing everything, I'd be happy. Really.
No doubt. 100%.
Like
100%.
Like I did a sport court at my house, exposed the aggregate last year, and it's like, nope, let's toss a sprinkler on it. We'll call it good. It's we can't get any better. So like, want to spray something on it? No, I'm good.
So let's talk about more about ASCC than just the two of us now. I think we did a pretty good job getting to know each other there and starting this conversation. When you think of collaboration with ASCC, I mean, how far do you think about that kind of stuff? Like you were talking about calling Dave in Texas. And I guess to me, I mean, first of all, we have that forum I love the fact that we have the forum that we can ask questions and get answers from. I mean, I don't know how to say it. Maybe you can say it better, but it's one of the great things about this organization is that how many people are there for you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's really the bottom line to it is I've never met a single soul at this organization that's like, I'm not going to help you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100% agree. And it's from top to bottom of the members I've met. I mean, hundreds of members over the years, and that's what makes this organization great. Is like, I consider some of my best friends are members in this in this association, and it's
I'm getting there too. Yeah, I agree.
I have my mix group, which my mix group I'd do anything for those guys. If we've sent our crews to each other's places, we've exchanged equipment, I mean, they have pushed me as a concrete contractor to as a whole. I never thought in a million years I would buy a curb machine, but I ended up buying one basically because all my mixed group members were like, "You got to get a curb machine." It's like, I literally said 10 years ago, I would never buy a curb machine.
Have you ever used it?
Oh yeah, we've used it quite a bit. It's a great piece of equipment.
That's awesome.
Has it paid for itself yet? Nah, it's still be determined, but eventually it'll get there. But it's it's like that's a great example. Is I don't want to have 10 years ago. I don't want to have anything to do with curb and gutter, and but as talking with my mix group and like expanding the business and supplying the concrete from, I call it from footings to the building to the fence posts that go in the ground for the fence landscaping. We do from concrete from footings to fence posts, so that's going to include a lot of curb and gutter. And if we're going to do a restaurant or whatever, a retail development or something. So, but I'm not going to just go out and buy a curb machine. It's like I got to talk to Chris and see what Chris is using. And I know any question that I have about that machine or how to use it or make money with it or anything, Chris has got the answer to because he's already done it. And if Chris doesn't know, then Jason knows because Jason's got one too now. And if Jason doesn't know, then the other Jason knows. It's like, so it kind of goes on down the line, but, and it's constantly made our businesses better, expanded our businesses, but it's, I couldn't do it without him. I mean, I would never have gotten into that line of work. I would never be comfortable with getting into that line of work without, the advice from those guys.
It's funny you say that because I've never been a part of mixed groups, and I definitely think we're going to do a full episode just on that alone.
Yeah.
But and that's going to be where you're going to be talking all the time, and I'm just going to be the innocent bystander in the background with whoever we talk to about it and stuff like that. Because we are going to be inviting people into this podcast as we have ideas that we want to talk about and bring people into like you that have those benefits that help them. I never saw the reason for it for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was only me because I'm not a concrete guy.
Right.
Like, how can you really help what I do? And then I'm saying in a negative way, like I know that in a business way you probably could, but for what I actually do, being an artist on top of the surface of the concrete, I don't feel like there's a lot in this organization that could help me do that better. Mm-hmm. And so I just stayed away from it. It's not a negative. It just wasn't for me because I didn't see how a group of concrete guys could do anything for me.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's not just,
or how could I help you? Like,
right. What we talk about, like our mixed group of what we do, talking about concrete is very minimal at this point. I mean, we still meet 2 times a year. And we come from all kinds of different work of the type of work that we do and perform, but it's, we all are looking to expand our business and become, the biggest or not the biggest, but the best concrete contractors that we can and provide solutions for our customers. And it's, not only that, but like, we even get down to the financials of our companies to like look and see how exactly you do yours compared to mine, or like, if I'm looking to work in this state, what can you help me out with? Or, those kind of things. But we hold each other accountable on our goals. So, most everybody in our mixed group is looking to expand their businesses. And that's probably one of the biggest things, that we hold each other accountable on it, which is one big thing. But we get together and talk about, outlook of construction outlook, like where's the economy going? Like, let's review something, or we'll bring in somebody to talk about it or something like that. So, a lot of it is concrete, just because we all do concrete, but sharing best practices is just one of them. Hey, we got this new software. It's pretty cool for doing X. And, it's been very beneficial for us. Hopefully you can benefit from it too. There's a lot of that too.
Well, the other thing too is there's a lot of more of me coming.
Mm-hmm.
I have a few new members that are joining that are more in my world. So, I can see a decorative side of mixed groups even more important than just the concrete guys mixed in, because I know some of the guys that are more decorative, but they're still pouring concrete. They're involved with concrete guys, and that makes perfect sense. But we have more of us people like me that are not even pouring concrete.
Right.
Or not the guy pouring it. Because I will point out, I have had a ton of concrete poured for me. And I have been involved with that process, the mix design and everything like that. One of my, he wasn't really my employee, but it almost felt like it.
Right.
My guy, Joe, that poured all my concrete for me for over a decade. And he knew exactly what I wanted. And it was awesome. When I got involved, I did show up to the job sites. I did get involved with the concrete pours. I just wasn't out there actually doing anything.
Sure.
I was more the guy pointing, going, yeah, I want that, but I don't want that. And which makes them laugh because they can't do that.
Yeah.
and cracks them up and everything like that. That's a good story. I'll tell you sometime. But yeah, I get it totally 100%. And I look forward to talking about that more. I'll just be in the background going, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. It's not only, the mixed groups is just a minimal portion of it, but it's just the problems that we deal with on day-to-day
Oh, no,
basis.
I completely agree, because you guys have so much more. There's so much more. Back to that point of like the goal to the conversation with being in collaboration and everything. You're right. There's every aspect of what you're talking about that you are talking to each other about. There's complexities to all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I don't need that doesn't mean the rest of the industry doesn't.
Sure.
Or, all that kind of stuff. I completely agree with you. I think they're fantastic. And I love listening to people like you talk about their group, because you're right. It is a very tight group. It's not just another committee or another board. It's a completely different conversation. It is a tight-knit group that are in it to help each other out. And it's, I feel like I'm missing out when I see those groups talking to each other at the parties, at the events and stuff, because I'm not one of them and I don't have my little clique and stuff like that. But it's really cool to see. It is an exciting part of the organization, and because you guys do a lot together.
I have to tell the guys, like, because we'll go to like the kickoff bash or whatever, and it's like, it's like the 5 or 6 of us all standing around talking to each other. It's like, guys, we talk to each other like all the time. Maybe we should go talk to like somebody else. It's like I have to remind myself, like, get away from my group, like, or let's go talk to somebody else. Let's go talk to Rick, and teach Rick about doing some concrete. So
yeah, and you see me, and I'm over here talking to these people, and over here talking to these people, and over here talking to them. I'm bouncing all over the place.
Yeah, no, it's great, but it's no, it's just the industry as a whole, and ASCC as a whole, from the technical side of, everybody's constantly battling. Like the hot topic right now is like 1L cement, right? So Portland limestone cement.
You have no idea, dude.
We could do a whole nother episode on it, but it's like
we are going to. I wasn't even going to bring it up today, because I do have a great story for you and everything. I've used it in some of the committee meetings lately. Like I've been helping the local concrete guys with all of that because of ASCC. It's been awesome for me, because they're like looking at me going, how do you know all this information?
How
And I'm like, and I don't even pour concrete.
Yeah. I just
Every
hang
time.
out. No, it's honestly, it's like being a driver in this. It's like, we have to solve this problem. It's not going
Yeah.
to solve itself. And this was shoved down everybody's throats at the exact same time. And it's a perfect example of how this community has come together. The ASCC, ACI, like joint committees, Mike Hernandez and what they're accomplishing on the technical side of it. But as far as gathering as much information as possible to make sure that, we're trying to do our best with what we're dealt with. Because, like I said at the beginning of this, it's like, we deal with whatever shows up in the truck. As long as it says it's right, then it's getting poured, and we got to deal with it at that point. So,
And it made curing compounds, as much as I don't want to admit to it, even more important. It changed the game to where it's necessity now to make that work. Like you were talking about from the top down, looking at what the concrete does.
Yep.
That top half is different than the bottom half, and
It's
you're
more
helping the
important than
top
ever.
half. Yeah, it's a whole different conversation now, and I might actually have some input for you after we get off this to help you out with that even more too. I might catch you off guard with some more information I have that you might not.
Oh, good. Well, I'm all ears. That's why we're here.
Well, awesome. Well, I think we've covered everything. Is there anything else we should talk about?
It's endless. I mean, but that's why we're here. It's with this constant collaboration of contractors across the board. And
we have to point out, not just across the board, but across the country, because we are on opposite sides of the country right now.
we are.
I mean, how much more collaborative can it be? You're in Washington State and I'm in Tennessee.
Yep.
You can't get farther away to collaborate at the same time right now.
Right. In this day and age, there's no reason that we shouldn't all be able to. So it's
Right.
like, it's one of the glory things we've gotten from video conferencing, which we can do now podcasting too. It's great.
There you go.
It's fantastic.
Well, awesome, man. Well, I want to thank you very much for your time. I'm looking forward to
Absolutely.
doing this a bunch more.
Glad to be here.
I think this was a good start.
I agree.
I think we're going to be completely opposites on everything we talk about, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I agree too. It's if we were just two concrete flatwork contractors, it'd get real boring real fast.
Yeah, we're two decorative guys.
Yeah,
We just get out of control and not talk about the right thing, and we get sidetracked too much.
Right.
Awesome, man. Well, you have a great day, and I hope everybody enjoyed this. And tune in next time, and we're going to start a series of these, and we're going to see what we can do to help the industry out, one concrete pour at a time, right?
Yes, sir.
One concrete podcast at a time.
Absolutely.
All right, bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
We want to thank ASCC for sponsoring the show. Go to ascconline.org and check out all the great benefits they have to offer. Follow us on all social media, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.